Hello and welcome to another episode of Latitude. Even though Bangladesh has witnessed multiple attacks on foreigners, intellectuals, liberals and its Hindu citizens since 2013, most of these attacks claimed by the Islamic State, the Bangladeshi government is adamant that the ISIS or the Al-Qaeda has very little role to play in Bangladesh, blaming instead the locally radicalized groups, particularly the JUM, with the assistance of Pakistan's ISI for the recent attack in Dhaka, where at least 20 people were killed and 30 or more were seriously injured.
The 11-hour-long siege of the Holy Artisan Bakery in Dhaka's upscale Gulshan area ended after a military-cum-police intervention that left 20 hostages, 2 police officers and all 6 terrorists dead, with over 30 others wounded. The victims of this unprecedented terror attack in Bangladesh were all gruesomely murdered, prompting Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to question the Islamic credentials of the attackers. Thus, even though the Islamic State was quick to claim responsibility for the attack, Bangladeshi ministers were adamant that the ISIS or Al-Qaeda has no presence in that country. Bangladesh's government has blamed the banned local hardline group, the Jamaatul Mujahideen or the JMB, which is known to have links with Pakistan's ISI. But others, including officials in India, do not rule out the increase in the presence of ISIS in Bangladesh. As in many of the attacks that have killed its Hindu citizens, the Islamic State has taken responsibility. If such attacks continue, New Delhi would need to prepare for an influx of Hindu refugees from Bangladesh. Bangladesh has witnessed at least 40 attacks on liberals, intellectuals, foreigners and Hindu citizens since 2013, which have left 29 people dead, with the Islamic State taking credit in most cases. The resurgence of Islamic militancy in Bangladesh coincided with the current government's crackdown on Islamist parties like the Jamaat-e-Islamic and the JMB, which want to counter the government's efforts to marginalize them.
And to look at what are the implications of this massive attack in Dhaka, in many ways Bangladesh's 26/11 moment, we have two very well-informed observers on Bangladesh. Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty, who's been both our Deputy High Commissioner and High Commissioner in Dhaka and continues to visit Bangladesh and is very well informed about the country, and also a distinguished fellow of the ORF. And we have Mr. Hiranmay Karlekar for the first time with us, a distinguished journalist and an author of many books on Bangladesh, including some of them in Bengali. Mr. Karlekar, sir, you've been watching the country extensively over the years. I read somewhere that the Bangladeshi constitution started off as being a secular liberal constitution, but with the interference by General Irshad and the constitutional amendments that came about, Bangladesh then began to fan the fires of a theocratic state, particularly giving Islamic ideology an extra sort of shoulder to operate out of in the Bangladeshi Union. Now, also we have seen the example of countries like Sri Lanka that tampered with a secular constitution and took a theocratic route in the 70s, or Pakistan that chose to go the hardline Islamic way. Both of them paid a heavy price with local militancy. So is it unusual what is happening in Bangladesh now, with Islamic groups now going the full hog as we've seen?
It is like chickens coming home to roost. The process began with Ziaur Rahman. Shortly after assuming power, the first change of constitution was made by him. Irshad changed the constitution in 1988. Islam being he proclaimed Islam as a state religion and said but other religions could be practiced in the country. But both of them tried to derive their strength with the support of Islamists, Jamaat-e-Islami and its various offshoots, and also the Islamists who had been sent into diaspora after the coming of Mujib government. So as a result of their efforts, there has been a certain strengthening of Islamist fundamentalist forces in Bangladesh, which of course had been there right from 1947. These were important forces, but not significant enough to leave a footprint on the country's politics. But during the period from 1935, when Mujib was assassinated, till the rise of second coming of Sheikh Hasina, they had been growing. And this growth is now reflected in acts of violence they are perpetrating.
Exactly. I mean, that is the general thesis that's emerging. Mr. Chakravarty, I wanted to understand that in the case of Bangladesh, Pakistan's intelligence agencies have a tendency to fish in troubled waters. They look out for soft spots, and in Bangladesh it is said there is still a constituency of people who are sympathetically inclined towards Pakistan, although millions, if not millions, at least many hundred thousands were killed by Pakistanis in the genocide of 71. But there is still a considerable sentimental attachment to the idea of Pakistan in Bangladesh. And therefore, the remark by a Bangladeshi senior minister to say that the ISI was in all likelihood involved with the attack in Dhaka, particularly because it followed a similar pattern to the Mumbai 26/11 attacks.
I wouldn't discount that at all, because and particularly now when the relations between the Hasina government and Pakistan have become particularly bad, and because the Jamaat-e-Islami, which has always been known as Pakistan's fifth column or proxy in Bangladesh as a political party and as an organization, their leaders have been convicted in the war crimes tribunals, and they have been hanged. Many of them have been hanged. So Pakistan is very unhappy, and I think you know that how they reacted to some of these hangings in Pakistan, and in fact they called them patriotic Pakistanis. So imagine the Pakistani assembly people, the MNAs and others calling these people patriotic Pakistanis. Hence the umbilical cord between West Pakistan and East Pakistan that was there. For 25 years, Bangladesh was East Pakistan, and hence there are contacts, relations, even family relations between the two, naturally, because they were one country. So there is a constituency. The answer is yes, there is a constituency, and I would say even in 71, I think 30% of that country did not want independence.
Interesting.
They wanted to be part of Pakistan.
Yes. We'll revisit this point again. Mr. Karlekar, sir, it is said that the pattern and the plot of the recent attack in Dhaka was very similar to the modus operandi of the Islamic State. They often look at targeting busy places, particularly when there are foreign nationals involved there. They look at terrifying people with excessive atrocities. Here people were hacked to death. Many of them had their throats slit up, and they always follow the rhetoric of making this loud pronouncements of Allahu Akbar and things of that nature. Now, therefore, there are observations that clearly the Islamic State, if it claims credit for it, perhaps had something seriously to do with not just this, but a whole lot of killings that have happened in Bangladesh, largely of Hindus and foreign nationals, where the Islamic groups have been taking credit, but somehow Bangladeshi government is reluctant to say so. Bangladeshi government continues to insist this is all indigenous. What's your take?
Well, it is indigenous in the sense that the people perpetrating these acts were born in Bangladesh, and they are Bangladeshis. In this case also, all the perpetrators are Bangladeshis by birth. But the question is, where does the inspiration come from? And when you talk about the inspiration, there are also certain other things which you bear in mind. For example, while the brutal slaughters were taking place inside that restaurant, Amaq, the news agency of the Islamic State, carried photographs of these characters under the Islamic State flags with their guns, with AK-47s. It carried photographs of people who were brutally murdered. It also gave an account of how many people killed from time to time. So obviously these people were reporting to Amaq or other agencies which were transferring the information to Amaq. So there is possibility that certainly they were inspired by Islamic State. Having said this, I'd also say that this is the signature not only of the Islamic State but Al-Qaeda and also of the ISI. Look, the Bombay attack of 2008, 26th November. Look at the high-profile attempt. Look at the brutality. Look at the savagery, and look similarly to the religious appeal. It is it's a stamp of ISI, IES, and of course the local Bangladeshis.
Sir, short question. It is said that Bangladesh has a massive demographic profile of its youth, and youth are very susceptible to internet-related propaganda. Many of the youth who were involved in the attacks were obviously looking for something unusual to do to attract attention. So to what extent is Bangladesh going to continue to be a fertile ground for recruitment for groups like IS?
I think one factor that we must remember is that while all these people are homegrown terrorists, and there is a fringe in Bangladesh represented by all these organizations called JMB, JMJB, Ansarul Islam, and all kinds of names they take. There is that radicalization that has taken place. Now, this radicalization has taken place not just in Bangladesh, but also in our country. For example, we have caught people, the Indian Mujahideen and others, what happened in Hyderabad the other day.
Right.
So there is an element of radicalization among the young Muslim youth. This is a fact, and we have to. Now, whether this is all due to the IS or not is very difficult to pin down how much it is due to the IS, how much it is due to local factors. But certainly IS is playing a role because they are appealing to some of these pristine Muslim Islamic concepts like the caliphate or other kinds of things. So it has an appeal in terms of its religious appeal.
Yeah, and we will look at that a little more in detail after a break, where we will also look at the events in Bangladesh, how they are unfolding and its implications for India. Welcome back. We continue to have our two distinguished guests with us. Mr. Karlekar, sir, what are the economic implications of Bangladesh getting repeatedly exposed with terror attacks? One of the things, as I understand, is Bangladesh is the second largest exporter of garments, and it has a big stake. Its whole economy is very garment linked, which is again linked with orders and interaction with other economies. Japanese, for instance, buy a lot of stuff from there. Clearly, if Bangladesh is unstable, is Bangladesh then going to go the way of Pakistan? Because Pakistan also had an export-linked economy at one stage. Ever since the Islamists came in, the world lost interest in Pakistan. Is that going to be something that will unsettle Bangladesh's economic story as it was unfolding fairly successfully until now?
That is a very, very major danger. If you know, one of the Japanese firms whose personnel were killed in Dhaka, it has already banned travel to Bangladesh by its employees. Others are also considering not sending their people to Bangladesh. Now, this is the first step. If things continue in this direction, if you can't send your people to Bangladesh, it's very difficult for you to do business with Bangladesh. So if this situation persists, the danger is very real. Bangladesh's export-oriented economy will be delivered a body blow, and this perhaps is the aim of people who are trying to destabilize Bangladesh, which brings in Pakistan into the picture. You very rightly refer to the state of the Pakistani economy, which has been undermined by militancy. So Pakistan perhaps, if he thinks that, well, why not Bangladesh as well?
Right. Mr. Chakravarty, sir, the number of attacks on liberals, moderates, Hindu priests, Hindu citizens in Bangladesh have been quite alarming. Since 15th February 2013, when perhaps the first known secular blogger, Ahmad Rajib Haider, was killed and hacked to death, and subsequently many others, including a lot of foreign nationals, have been hacked and attacked. People who follow Hinduism, local priests, even a Buddhist monk has been attacked. Now, what are its implications immediately for Indo-Bangladesh relations, which are in an upswing? Are we going to see an influx of refugees in India? Are you going to see the Indian government offering to get more proactive in Bangladesh by helping provide more intelligence-related inputs, which will in turn strengthen Bangladesh's response mechanism, which is not of that caliber perhaps that Indian response mechanism is? There is a view. So what's your view that how can India respond to all this diplomatically?
I answer the first question, that whether there will be an influx of refugees, Hindu refugees from Bangladesh, is that I don't think so at the moment, because I don't think it's reached that kind of a threshold where Hindus will start leaving in droves. I think India and Bangladesh have been cooperating very closely ever since the new the second term Hasina government. As you know, a lot of Indian insurgent groups have been rounded up and have been sent to India. We are also exchanging intelligence on various, India has offered intelligence, even the US has offered help. And I think as you will hear from Bangladeshi ministers, the Home Minister and other ministers who are coming on television saying very clearly that we are seeking India's help, we are exchanging information. And I think whatever help we can give to Prime Minister Hasina's government should be given, and more if necessary, because this is something, because it is our own interests are involved here in terms of our own security interests, because the spillover effect of this. And as you know, Pakistan has always used Bangladesh and earlier East Pakistan as a launching pad for various attacks on India, and Pakistan will continue to do that, because they have used Nepal, they have used Bangladesh. And since Hasina cracked down on some of these groups, Pakistan has been finding it difficult. So Pakistan will be encouraging many of these things. First of all, it wants to destabilize the Hasina government, because its favorite Khaleda Zia and the Jamaat are in a corner, because Hasina has perhaps pushed them in a corner. So I think Pakistan has every interest and every motive to destabilize Bangladesh.
Right. Mr. Karlekar sir, virtually all the targeted killings, at least in the last 1 year, almost all of them were targeted on Hindu nationals, with perhaps the exception of a USAID employee who was targeted on April 25 this year. In almost all the cases, the Islamic State or the Islamists have claimed responsibility. But the response of the Bangladeshi state and the police mechanism has been to say, no, this is all a local affair. How much of it is, as Mr. Chakravarty just brought out, about political rivalries within Bangladesh, and how much is it that there is a desire on the part of the current government in Bangladesh to prevent the world from looking at Bangladesh as the next fertile ground for the Islamic State or the Al-Qaeda?
You see, first of all, Bangladesh, there is a political divide, but the ideology of the Jamaat precedes the political divide. Right from its inception, Jamaat has regarded India as its enemy. Its official website in its defense policy has said that India is the only country which can threaten Bangladesh, therefore India is our enemy, and Bangladesh military should imbibe the spirit of jihad to successfully resist India. That is one. Second, it has also been the fountainhead of fundamentalism and also the spawning ground of various fundamentalist organizations. Jamaatul Mujahid in Bangladesh, the founder is an alumni of the student wing of Jamaat-e-Islami, Islami Chhatra Shibir. Islami Chhatra Shibir, they have also produced people like Jamaatul Bangladesh, and it has been trying to create a terrorist nucleus in Bangladesh for a long time, and has been, in fact, if you remember, Prothom Alo, one of the Bengali dailies, is carried a series of articles in 2004 heading Parbotto Chottograme Jongi Tatparata, that is militant activity in the hill tracts of Chittagong. And it says how arms training and the other trainings were going on. So preparations were there for a long time. And second coming of Hasina, led to a divide, and then when they decided to strike.
Right. Mr. Chakravarty, sir, last question to you. Bangladesh, events in Bangladesh and its spillover effect, particularly in Assam and Bengal. We saw the Burdwan blasts in Bengal, clearly the linkages being drawn between hardline groups within Bangladesh, with or without IS inspiration, but clearly they had an anti-India agenda. There is now a greater degree of alertness amongst our intelligence agencies that there could be more spillover effect, although our Home Minister maintains that IS, Islamic State, has had limited impact in India. More and more linkages and cases are emerging. So what is it that worries you or should worry us all about events in Bangladesh and in the neighboring states in India which neighbor Bangladesh?
What worries me particularly is that many of these radicalized Islamic groups and their members, or at least their members, may run away from Bangladesh when the pressure is now going to build on them. I'm sure the government of Bangladesh is going to crack down, and they will come into India. We have a porous border, everybody knows, and they will find friends and relatives, etc., in India and elsewhere, and they might start their activities within India, in the states neighboring Bangladesh. So if we are not sort of alert to this possibility, and if we do not sort of upgrade our intelligence and ground level intelligence, etc., we might see this happening in the states that are bordering bordering Bangladesh. So that is one clear danger. Second is, do we want a Bangladesh which becomes a radical Islamic state? We don't, certainly not from our point of view. So that is another point that we have to keep in mind. So hence, the secular forces, the more progressive forces in Bangladesh, need to be helped so that they can maintain the secular structure of the government and the secular constitution, which is of course no longer secular, as because the Islam has made the state religion way back by Muhammad Ershad. So, but the point is that politicians, even Sheikh Hasina, is a bit ambivalent about let's say going after some of these people.
Right. We'll have to end here, sir. I think that was a very important point. We need to wrap up, and due to paucity of time, but 3 or 4 quick points that emerge from this is, one is that the role of the Islamic State is fairly prominent in Bangladesh, particularly as an inspiration to the youth in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh has a very large youth population with access to internet and other electronic mediums where Islamic State uses to extend its propaganda. And Bangladesh's economy will certainly be hurt by acts of terror, and this could be exploited further by countries like Pakistan, which is actually in connivance with radicals in Bangladesh, looking to unsettle the current secular pro-India regime in Bangladesh, so that they can build up on the sentiment which is there in small quarters in Bangladesh against India. But most importantly, India needs to remain alert to the spillover effects of what could happen in Bangladesh, and New Delhi's opportunity lies now to strengthen the secular vision of the current leadership in Bangladesh and provide it all sorts of support, including intelligence support, if India wants to keep its border areas safe and secure, since the spillover effects could have immense impact in Bengal and Assam in particular. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us on the show. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, goodbye. Thank you.